What's good, YouTube? Welcome back for episode 2 of the Space Engineer's Survival Guide. So today we're gonna actually work on getting our base going. We landed over here next to the ice, and I've got some ideas about what I want to do for this. So first thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to get rid of some of this foliage around here. It's gonna get in the way of the way I want to build the base. I think today what we're going to do is we're going to automate a little bit of resource production along with getting the main idea laid out for the base, which that's something you want to put a lot of thought into because it's going to stick around with you for forever. So first thing we're going to do today is we are going to try and repair that H2O2 generator. So let's go ahead and see what we can do here. I just right clicked and then I'm going to shift middle click to load up the components. But we need to do a little bit of drilling today. We need to do a little bit of layout and everything like that. So let's see, how many steel plates do we have? Okay, we've only got 12 steel plates to start with, so we're gonna have to be sparing with them. We don't, well, yeah, we've got a little bit of iron left. So while we're waiting, or while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just queue up a bunch of iron because we're going to need as many of those as we can get. That's what we're going to need to lay out the floor plan here. I recommend before you actually start your base, you want to give some real thought into how you want to set it up ahead of time, because you're going to need specific things on your base in the very beginning. You're going to need some sort of power generation, which I would recommend if you're in an open area like this. You definitely want to use some wind power generation. You're going to need batteries. You're going to need your assembler setup and your refinery setup. So we're going to start with the easy stuff in the very beginning. We're not going to go all out in the very beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a spot here that looks like it's kind of in line here with the rest of everything based off of the direction that it makes us put our base in. You can change this around by hitting B, by using B until it says local grid activated, and then you can use your page down and delete keys. It should be those for you. Using your page down and delete keys to move this around and line it up however you want. I'm just going to line it up with gravity by hitting B again where it's free placement mode. Okay, there we go. Hitting B until I get to gravity align placement mode. That way we're basically lined up with our cardinal directions here. I just want it to look specific way. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to place my first block here. That's the one that really matters because everything on your grid will be lined up with this piece that you place first. So we're going to place a few of them along here just to get it started. And I need to think about where I want my wind generators to be. Now the thing about the wind generator is it has to be in the air. The higher up it is, the better off you are. So you kind of want to give it some thought on that first. So we're gonna go right around in here. This is usually the first thing I do is go ahead and just get a windmill going, which means I'm gonna need some more of these. I'm gonna grab out our steel plates here just so we can keep going. And you're gonna want to place it about 5 to 7 blocks. I believe 7 blocks is gonna be best, at least in the air. We're going to go a little bit higher than that just because we're going to have a ceiling and stuff like that we're going to think about later. So I'm just going to go about 10 blocks here. And then I'm going to need to grab me one of the... Okay, we've got 4 interior plates here. Grab up our interior plates just so we can put those out. So what we're going to do here is look through our progression and see what we need to build in order to unlock the windmill. It's the wind turbine, and it's already unlocked, which is good. That's one of the first things, that's in the first round of unlocks that you get. So we're gonna place that wind drill here, and I'm gonna bring up my welder, and right click on the wind turbine just so it adds it to the build planner. I'm checking the build planner to see all that other stuff that I had in there and getting rid of that. Now we can tell the system over here that that's what we want to do by holding down shift and middle clicking, and it will queue up the components specifically for what's in our build planner. And we're gonna have to go mine some stuff. Now I do want to set up a mining setup inside of the base here, so I'm just gonna start grabbing my stuff out of there. I'm gonna go ahead and line it up with the way that I want to do this. Now right in the center I'm gonna have some drills coming down, so I want to think about that ahead of time. I'm gonna put these about, actually we want to leave that an uneven number because of the way that blocks work here. If you have an even number, you can't find center very easily. So we're just gonna line that up there, and this area right here we're gonna drill down. This is how we're gonna get most of our resources. We're just gonna start drilling down into the bottom here. So that's just planning for the future right here. And this is where I'm gonna drill just so I can keep it nice and clean. So I'm going to make a couple loads back to the respawn pod of rock real quick, and I'll get back with you when I'm finished. Now the first thing I did is I drilled straight down into the actual rock here, because if you remember, this stuff with the grass here is not as rocky as this stuff right here. So that's all I did, was just drill down there, and I'm just gonna start drilling out here and get up a couple loads. Alright, looks like we've got enough iron now for what we need. We're gonna let this finish up, and then we're gonna just finish up our turbine real quick. And we're officially done with the wind turbine. Okay, so now that we've gotten that built, the next thing we're gonna need is we're gonna need a battery in order to work as a buffer for when we're generating electricity but not using it. So we're gonna go ahead and put a battery down. So you hit your G key and type in battery, and it will find the battery. We don't have it unlocked on progression, so we need to look to see what we need to unlock it. So I went to the progression tab and I'm typing battery here just to find, okay, so we need the battery here. What do we need to unlock it? Looks like we actually need to build our basic assembler first. So we already have a basic assembler on our bar by default under number 5. So we're gonna open that up, and we are going to grab some steel plates because that's what you need to place it. And we're gonna find a place for our assembler here. Now I'm gonna put a floor in here as well, so I'm gonna go ahead and start working on that before I place my assembler. Now with the basic assembler, there's one input output on the basic assembler, so you have to think about where you're gonna place that. So if you're gonna put walls or anything, like if I was to wall this in here, I wouldn't want to place it against that wall with that output there, because you're gonna have to send it to other machines as well. So we're gonna place it, I think this is gonna be about as wide as, we can go a little bit further. With the floor plan I have in mind, I think we're gonna go to about right here. These will be our walls around here. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna put this in the back corner back here. But I want to pay attention to where this output here is. As you see, there's only one input output on the entire thing. So we're going to place it to where the output is facing about right here. And we're going to go ahead and finish this up. So I'm going to right click on it, come over to our respawn pod here, and I'm going to shift middle click to put all the components into production. And we're going to need some more iron, so I'm going to come down here, and I'm gonna keep ferrying iron, or keep ferrying stone back and forth to the base while we're waiting. The one thing you can expect to do early game is just run back and forth dropping off stone. There are options to fix that to where you can carry more if you want to, but I don't recommend new players doing it. It's kind of the part of the fun of early game. I kind of like the grindiness of it. It's you feel definite sense of progression as you move forward to an automation style. Okay, so we've gotten enough iron up now to finish up our production. So we're going to go ahead and finish this up, and we will make our basic assembler here. Once we get our basic assembler up, we're going to just start taking all of the resources we get out of here and moving it over to the basic assembler, because it will actually be easier if we do that. And the next thing we want to do is start working on our basic refinery, and we're going to have to hook that up specifically. So I want to get the assembler done before we do that. So I'm going to keep withdrawing components and running them over here. Okay, this should be the last trip here. Yes, it is. Now notice you only have to go up to functional. I recommend in the very beginning, if you're running low on resources, don't worry about going past functional here on the line, because it'll work just fine and you can upgrade later if you decide to. So we're just going to get a functional here just to save some time and effort, and I'm going to find the refinery now that we've unlocked what we needed to for the battery. We're going to go ahead and put a basic refinery down, and you notice that this one has 2 input output, so that's a good thing. What we're going to do is we're going to place it right here directly connected to the basic assembler, so we can just dump our stone directly into it, and it'll dump into the assembler as well. So I'm going to go ahead and grab up some steel plate here. Okay, we've got 4 of them, and we're going to place this one down and get it queued up. Alright, that is queued up. And I'm just going to right click on it to add it to the build planner and get rid of this basic assembler off of the build planner. And we're going to go ahead and queue one of these up by shift middle clicking on the respawn pod at the survival kit. So now that's queued up. This is going to take quite a bit of resources here, so we're going to need 821 iron in order to finish that up. So of course I'm just going to continue what I was doing before and grabbing iron. As I stated before, we're going to grab all of our resources out of here. In fact, we're going to stop production on this because we don't need it here. We need it at the other place over there. So we're going to keep producing resources here, but we are going to actually be doing something a little differently this time. We're just going to let this take all of our stone away and work on our stone while we move all of our resources over to the basic assembler here, because the basic assembler is much faster and just better overall. It can make more items as well. So we're just going to put all of our resources and all of our components and stuff in here that we already have. We can take things apart in the basic assembler. So we can actually take all this stuff that we don't need here and go to disassembling and hit disassemble all. And it'll disassemble all of that and give you the materials back as well. So we're going to do that while we're working on this over here and grabbing all of our resources out of here, moving it over there, and all of that fun stuff. And then we're going to queue up our basic refinery in this one. Now we do have power here, but we're going to be running short on power pretty soon, so that's something we're going to have to think about it. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my welder and shift middle click here, and it says 3 components could not be put in production. I don't know why it said that, because we should be able to make everything. Oh yeah, I had it on disassembling. That's another thing. If you have it on disassembling, it will not assemble. It'll tell you it can't be put into production, so you have to come over here and click assemble if you've already disassembled. And we're going to shift middle click here to put all the components into production. And we're going to check to see what we still need. We're going to be short some iron, so we're going to have to continue to mine while we're waiting. Okay, so we've got enough iron here, so I'm going to dump all this stuff in here, and we're going to finish up the production here. Once we get this basic assembler running, we are no longer going to be needing the survival kit over here, because it will actually do the stone much faster, and we can start automating the process of mining the stone as well. We will need a battery before we can really effectively use it at full speed. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick up what we need for this and go ahead and finish it up. Remember that was middle click in order to pick up the components. We don't have quite enough power generation at the moment to sustain both the refinery and the assembler together. So we are going to have to worry about that. So we can dump our stone directly into the basic refinery now, and it will queue up everything that we need. And we don't even have to tell it to build the ingots or anything like that like we did before. So I'm going to grab up a load of stone here just to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so now that we've got a load of stone, we're just going to dump that directly into the basic refinery. And when we do, watch what happens. It automatically turns it into what we need. And you notice it's a lot faster this way too. So now that we've got that going, we need to think about a way to get more stone faster. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to be doing some batteries. I like to hide my batteries, so I'm going to actually put my batteries underneath the building here. Anytime that you can hide something that you don't have to access all the time, I recommend doing it. It just makes things a lot better. So we're going to come over here to the basic refinery, and we're going to tell it that we want to make some of these. So we're going to grab this and make a couple steel plates because we're going to need those. And grab them. And that way we can place our batteries here. I'm going to put the batteries down below this section of floor here. So I'm going to start here, and then we'll put another one here for now. 2 should be perfectly acceptable for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to queue these up. Make sure, okay, yeah, build planner was clear. And then we're going to run over here and we're going to tell it to queue up the batteries by shift middle clicking. And this is able to make pretty much every item that we need right now. The basic assembler is. So we're just going to go ahead and queue that up, and we're going to see how much of each thing we need. We're going to need about 1,700 iron for the 2 batteries. Let me cancel out one of these batteries here and see what we need. We need about 815 per battery. So we're going to go ahead and just continue to mine. Now at this point you're left with the decision. You can either, I would recommend working on an H2 generator if you're going to be taking apart your respawn pod. I'm going to leave, we can start taking apart the respawn pod here. So, because we're not going to be using this for anything else. Sometimes I use it for drilling, but we've got it specifically set up. So I'm just taking all the things that we absolutely don't need off of the respawn pod. So everything but the H2 generator and its power stuff, and we should be good. Sorry about that. I had to fix my little guy there. Apparently he didn't have invulnerable cut on, so I had to go get some energy for him. I fixed that though. So what we're going to have to do here is just pick up everything off of here that we're not going to absolutely be using. This is free resources. Absolutely recommend making sure you grind down the entire ship before it's over with. That saves you really saves you a lot of trouble early game. So look at all the steel or iron that we're getting here, which is what we need at the moment. So instead of mining, I'm just going to start cannibalizing this ship and going on and dumping all of that in there. And then we're going to take all of these pieces apart.
No energy.
Okay, so this is a perfect opportunity to show you something here. You notice how we're out of energy and we're taking health or taking damage. The reason why is because it's cold outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit back in the seat here. That only happens if it's cold. If it's warm, you will not take damage. It's to keep you from like flying through space or something in your spacesuit without a ship, basically, which used to be possible. You could actually leave with a single hydrogen tank and make it all the way to the moon and back, which was a little ridiculous actually. So I'm just going to continue to chop this down. I'll make a quick little time lapse of me doing so. Oh, before I get started, I need to check to see if there's any way that I can build better tools here. I want to show you guys how to do that. Now would be the time to upgrade your tools if you can. So we're going to go to production and we're going to look at tools here and see what we can make. I think we may be able to, if we take apart what we've already got, we should be able to make an enhanced grinder here. So let's go ahead and get rid of this stuff out of here and go to disassembling. We're going to disassemble all just to make sure. And we may have enough cobalt. If not, we've got cobalt over here. So now might be the time to go get it. I'm going to run grab a little bit of cobalt real quick. Just one load of cobalt. And we're going to go ahead and take care of that. While we're here, we got a prisoner seat. While we're here, these things are very helpful in the very beginning too. So if you get an unknown signal, you probably should go after it. I didn't. I've pretty much gotten most of what I can get out of them. But these are good resources in the beginning as well. So we'll just grind this down. And check there should be a box somewhere in here. Yeah, it's in the very bottom here. So once we get ground down to the box, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so you can access these little small cargo containers and they'll have items in here. Speaking of grinders, there's an enhanced grinder in there. We don't have to go get cobalt, but I'll still will just to show you. That way we can upgrade all of our tools. So I'm going to bring up my G menu here and I'm going to go to character tools and grab the enhanced grinder and put that in my number 2 spot just to replace the regular grinder. You notice how much faster this is at grinding. Those are a good source for decent tools in the beginning along with extra resources and stuff too. So we're about 1.7 kilometers out. I'm going to go ahead and fly just to make it faster. You can only run about 10 meters per second, but you can fly at 110. So if you've got a long trip like that, you're probably better off flying and try not to do what I just did. You got to be a little bit careful when you're stopping if you're moving really, really quickly. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and right-click drill down to the cobalt here. I'm basically just lining up the marker here and right-click drilling to it. Now you'll notice the cobalt is a different color than everything else. That's how you'll know you've reached the cobalt. This will have a bluish tint to it. See right here, this blue? It kind of looks like ice, but most of the time you can tell the difference. So now that we're here, we're just going to start left-click. We're going to start left-click drilling here at the cobalt, and we're just going to hit these little spots that have the blue cobalt-looking stuff here. I don't mind if I pick up a little bit of ice. I can use some extra ice for hydrogen as well, so that's not a big deal. We're just going to get one full load of hydrogen here, or of cobalt here. By picking up only the cobalt ore here. If you mouse over it, it'll tell you what it is. So just make sure you get nothing but the cobalt if you want to fill up your inventory with cobalt specifically. Now, you're going to need cobalt for other things very, very soon as well. So you're better off at least getting 1 to 2 loads of it to start with. Sometimes it's pretty hard to find. We got lucky this time. Just use the trick about finding the resources that I told you in the last video if you still need to find it. And make sure you GPS it, of course. So I'm going to come in here and dump this cobalt directly into the refinery so it can start refining. Cobalt's pretty slow to refine, so you're going to want to get that started as early as you can. Now that that's working, I'm going to run over here and continue to take down the respawn pod here. And with this enhanced grinder, it'll be a little bit better. Now that we have a way to make electricity, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this seat out of here too. because we're not going to need that anymore. We've got a way to build our power up here. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a seat on the base here. That way we can recharge our power when we need to. This is a temporary seat. We don't need to do too much. Now the passenger seat's going to be a lot more effective than any other one at the moment, because it takes like 100 computers for any other one. So now we've got a seat here. Anytime we need power, instead of running back to the ship, all we have to do is sit in the seat and it will fill us up. Now I also want to possibly do a survival kit on the base. I'm going to go ahead and show you a survival kit before, just so we can show you what it can do. I usually skip over a survival kit and go straight to a medical unit, but we'll get into that. Okay, so what I've done here is I went into production, and we're disassembling all of the items that we have right now. That way we can get the raw materials out of them. You notice that weird sound that you hear right now? That's because we're not actually creating enough energy at the moment to work both the assembler and the refinery, because we've got them both running at the moment. That's why we hear that sound. It's basically kicking back and forth, and it can be a real pain in the butt. That's why we're gonna need the battery as soon as we can. I'm gonna cancel out getting rid of the GPS signal too, because we can still use that. So I'm gonna let that run for a few minutes while I'm tearing this down. Now, the thing about tearing this down is be very careful. Don't overdo it to start with. We are gonna need some of these items at the moment. Like, I've been very careful not to get rid of anything that I need here. I've basically been taking all the steel out of it from the plates. Like, you don't need the beacon here. The beacon's there just to let you know where it's at. Grab the NATO ammo for the gun. We're gonna get rid of the timer block here. We do need the survival kit, so we're gonna leave that. We currently do need that because we have no other way to heal ourselves. You notice I'm at 70 health from earlier. So the way we're gonna fix that is we're just gonna come up to the survival kit and hold down F, and it'll heal us. I recommend not getting rid of the survival kit until you at least have one of those on the base, or some way to heal yourself as well. We're going to leave the O2H2 generator because we haven't put one in the base yet, and we're going to need the battery to be there because it's going to need power somehow. But anything else here we can get rid of. So we can get rid of the small cargo container, we can get rid of the hydrogen thrusters, we can get rid of all these small conveyor tubes as well. But be very careful and make sure that the thing on the right says what you're wanting to get rid of. Otherwise, you might grind the wrong item. Aiming your grinder can be a pain. I'm also going to leave this little landing gear here that's connected. That way we don't disconnect from the ground. But everything else we can pretty much get rid of. All the steel plate and all of the other stuff. There we go. I'm going to leave the rest of the steel plate for now just because I don't feel like messing with it at the moment. And I believe we are... Yeah, I believe we're pretty good right now. I'm going to let this continue, and once this is done, I'm going to queue up our battery that we need. We should have enough components to make our battery. And I'm going to come over here and fill my hydrogen. We are going to need a little bit more ice, so I'm going to go grab some ice real quick. I'm going to grab an entire load of ice. Since we already have a hole over here, I'm going to use this hole for the ice. That way we don't go adding a bunch of holes that we don't need into our nice pretty lake here. Alright, so I'm going to dump the ice directly into our O2 generator here. Now notice we couldn't fit all of it in. I'm going to control click to grab some more out and then fill up our bottle. Now the thing is, you're going to have to remove some ice from the machine here in order to fit the hydrogen bottle in. So we're just going to shift click just to pull 100 out and see what, okay, a couple hundred. just to see. Okay, there we go. Now, once you fill it back up, you can toss your ice back in. Now, we're going to be carrying some ice around if we don't get rid of it. I'm just going to drop it right here because it should stay as long as I don't go drilling somewhere else. So I'm going to hit I, and I'm going to just drop the ice here. Well, it's going to roll down the hill. I'm not too worried about it. It'll disappear later. But I just don't want to carry all that ice around with me, if you know what I mean. Okay, so it looks like we are done disassembling there. Let's go ahead and disassemble all again because we've added more components in. And once that's done, we'll get these batteries running. Okay, so we are done with that, and we've got the 2 batteries queued up still, so I'm going to go ahead and queue these up. With the shift middle click here, and it says 8 components could not be put into production. What is it that could not be put into production? Oh yeah, disassembling again. I always make that mistake. We're going to cancel this. We've already got one. I always make the mistake of leaving it and disassembling, so try to pay attention to that. And we're going to shift middle click, and everything's put into production. We're going to let that build for a few moments. As soon as I hear that little clickety clack go away, then that means they are done and we'll be able to go ahead and do our batteries. Okay, we're getting yelled at that we don't have enough power here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get one of these batteries running real quick. We are still going to be short some power cells and computers for that. I'm just going to go ahead and put everything I can into it now. Now the thing about the batteries are they're the only item in the game that you can't get everything back from. So we're just basically going to have to, let's go ahead and cut off our refinery for now because we've got everything that we need to make the items. We just need the power from the refiner. So I'm going to cut off the refinery now. That way our production can continue. As soon as we can get these 34 power cells working, we should be good for a battery. And that way we can start pulling up the energy when we're not actually using all of it. As you can see here, we're only putting out up to 373.52 kilowatts. Now, the thing about these wind turbines is it's according to the clearance around them to how much they put out and how high up they are, which is why we've got them in the air like we do. We're going to be doing some more, but we're going to have to worry about them. So like right now it's only outputting 1 kilowatt because we're not using anything. That 1 kilowatt's going to waste at the moment. We're not able to hold on to anything from it. Okay, inventory is full. So we're going to go ahead and grab up these power cells here and go ahead and start working on these batteries. Power cells are also, early game I'd say they're probably the hardest thing to deal with because they weigh a lot. You don't get them back from taking down the batteries. Like I said, they're the only item in the game that you do not receive when you grind the item. So whenever you grind batteries, you don't get everything back. The power cells go to waste. There is a reason for that. People were cheating a little bit. I wouldn't call it necessarily cheating. They were just using the way that it worked. Basically, they were grinding it down and getting the initial power that the batteries have. So you'll notice whenever I get this battery working here, I don't know if you can see it right now. Yeah, you notice how it's got 1 bar of power here? That's why the power cells go away, because if you ran out of power, all you had to do was bring it down below functional and then put everything right back into it and fix it, and it would come back with that 1 bar of power. So you could actually cheese the power for a while. So that's why they made it to where the power cells are no longer obtainable upon taking down a battery. But now that we've got this battery here, it's going to be charging with whatever we're not using for the power. So that is a very good thing. So let's get back in here. I'll show you what we're talking about. Alright, so you notice the battery here. It says fully recharged in 22 hours. We are currently using up 280 kilowatts in the base, and we have an input of 373. So we're generating 373.52 kilowatts, but we're only using 280 kilowatts. So all of that excess power is going into the battery and being stored, which is very good because that allows you to actually generate less power than you're using full time, or basically over the whole time. So you can spike up and use your power, and you can use your power stores. So you can actually use, say, your refinery along with your assembler, as long as you're not using them all the time. But I think this is a good place to leave the episode, and I think in the next episode what we'll cover is going to be getting a drilling platform set up to where we can efficiently drill stone for materials. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. How about dropping a like to let me know that you did? Also, if you haven't already, think about helping us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, click one of the 2 videos on your screen now. Thank you. Have a nice day.